It is Tuesday, November 19th, 2024, and it is raining. It's actually raining. It's 45 degrees today up here in northern Minnesota, and rain this time of year is virtually unheard of. Normally we're frozen for about 6 months out of the year, from November all the way through April a lot of the times. So having rain this time of year is unexpected, because normally this would all be snow. Anyway, we're leading into the holidays. We got Thanksgiving coming up, and then immediately after Thanksgiving, of course, there's Christmas, New Year's, Easter, and whatever other holidays there are out there. And this is the time of year where most people gain, the majority of weight that they gain all year is condensed in these next few months. And it's because of our traditions. The most underutilized tool when it comes to weight loss is accountability, or tracking, however you want to think about that. And I know why it's underutilized. It's because it takes time and effort, and people don't like to put effort into things for the most part. But something to consider when it comes to accountability is that it works for every person every time. And you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to figure out why it works. It works because as soon as you're accountable to the food that's going in, you can make changes as necessary to help you meet your goals. And this is very powerful, because I think a lot of the times people think of their diet or their results with their nutrition as something that you inherently have and are born with, or not, which also isn't true. It's not about luck as much as it is about effort. And coincidentally, the more effort you put in, the better your results typically are. So we want to talk today about how to put in the most amount of effort to the best of your ability in the allotted time given, because that's where the big results are going to come from. So let's break this down. Now, I've been doing this a long time. Over 15 years I've had the gym here, but I've been coaching clients for more like 17. And it all started because I got a job at GNC, a general nutrition company. I think coincidentally you're mostly out of business by now. But as salespeople at GNC, they would pay us to push these promotional products and earn what they call PMs, which was promotional money. And promotional money is how many dollars we got for each bottle of whatever bullshit fat burner we were selling at the time. But my ethics didn't let me do that. My ethics pushed me to be honest with people and tell them that it was their diet that was the main culprit as to why they couldn't lose weight, and they didn't need Hydroxycut or Xantrex or whatever bullshit pill we were pushing at the time. And through this process of being honest with customers, more and more of them requested that I coach them personally, and that's how this gym came to be. Now, as ethically unsound as it is to lie to people to sell them a product, unfortunately, the fitness industry at large is based on moral corruption. It's most people trying to sell you some shit you don't need in some way or form. Now, I go over this in much greater detail in some of my other videos, so feel free to go check those out. But let's just do a basic synopsis of what we're talking about today when it comes to energy balance. This is calories in versus calories out. Calories in is pretty simple. This is just how many calories you're consuming on a daily basis. And please, don't forget liquid calories, and don't forget condiments either. The coffee you get at the drive-thru, if it's one of those fancy coffees, it's likely to be super calorically dense. And so is your Coca-Cola or whatever soft drink you might be ingesting. And so are condiments, especially stuff like barbecue sauce and mayonnaise. Those things are super calorically dense. So if you don't count those things, you're not going to have an accurate measurement of the calories going in. But if you were to track everything you're eating on a daily basis and the calories in or more than the calories out, you're going to gain weight, whether that's a snapshot of a day, a week, a month, a year, or a decade, whatever. But if you are currently overweight, you have been ingesting more calories than the calories that are going out. Calories in is pretty simple. This is just the calories you're consuming on a daily basis. Calories out is a little more complicated, but let's talk about that. The most amount of calories that you utilize on a daily basis are just for your basal metabolic rate, or BMR. This is how many calories your body needs to maintain biological functions if you were awake, but just laying there all day, essentially. The second biggest contributor to your calories out is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, otherwise known as NEAT. And this is how many calories you burn just doing your daily life. Now, if you have a desk job, obviously that's going to be a lower number, but you can increase that number just by staying busy when you get home, by focusing on doing the chores around the house, doing the yard work, washing the cars, just staying busy. And also too, the more you stay busy, the less time you're actually thinking about snacking. So it helps in a multitude of ways just to stay as busy as you possibly can. So consider that activity that's non-sanctioned as exercise has a big positive impact on the calories going out. Then we have exercise activity. This is actually the calories you burn in your structured exercise time. You can exercise every day if you choose the right exercises so that you don't burn yourself out or increase your risk of injury. And if you want more information on that, you can check out my cardio video. So please go check that out. There is a form of exercise that you can do daily as much as you have time for that doesn't negatively impact the rest of your training. Now, some training you want to stay away from that you can't do 3 to 5 days a week because it is going to increase your risk for injury and aggravation, and it's also going to have a negative effect on your central nervous system. It's just going to make you powered down a little bit. After all, let's just go into a little more detail about your exercise activity. The whole point of exercise is to get better at exercise, which means the better you get at exercise, the least calories you burn to perform that exercise. I know that sounds crazy, but getting really good at running means being more efficient at your running. And being more efficient means burning less calories for the same distance. And for every exercise we're talking about, it's about increasing your efficiency. So over time, the amount of calories you can burn with exercise actually decreases, which is why low, slow, or zone 2 cardio is recommended to do quite a bit because it doesn't interfere with any of that. And then the last one, TEF, is thermal effect of food. Some food has a higher thermal effect and requires more calories to actually assimilate or excrete, depending upon what your body's going to do with that macro. But it is still responsible for burning some calories. So summarize this real quick. If you have more calories in than you have going out on a daily basis, consistently over a long period of time, you will gain weight. If you have more calories going out than you have coming in consistently over a long period of time, you will lose weight because your body will need to tap into its stores of fuel for energy, otherwise known as your body fat. So just keep that in mind. If you're in a caloric deficit, you will burn fat for fuel if your macros are set up right. And that's what we're going to talk about next. One of the, if not the main reason to be accountable to your nutrition and to log your food is this. This is sarcopenia, is a term used to describe muscle wasting over time. And this is the reason why most people yo-yo diet. Your first line of defense is to just reduce your overall caloric intake. That's a good place to start, don't get me wrong, but that's not going to last you very long because your body is always going to be faced with a choice. And that choice is, do I take my caloric needs from my body fat, or do I take my caloric needs from my muscles? Now, it will take some of your caloric needs from body fat, but it's going to take a lot of your caloric needs from muscle, and that muscle is going to shrink over time. Now, a big, strong muscle is going to reduce your blood sugar and increase your overall metabolic rate as it continues to grow, whereas a muscle that's succumbed to sarcopenia will have a minimum impact on your blood sugar and it will lower your metabolic rate as it continues to shrink. So we do need to make sure that we're getting adequate protein on a daily basis. If fat loss is your goal, you need a minimum of protein. And if you don't get that, you'll see the scale going down. Some of that's going to be fat and some of that's going to be muscle, and your metabolic rate is going to tank over time. Now, let's not overcomplicate the numbers here. You need 1 gram of protein per pound of desired weight on a daily basis. So let's use an example here. If you weigh 200 pounds currently and you want to weigh 150 pounds, then you need 150 pounds of protein on a daily basis to prevent sarcopenia. Now, avoiding yo-yo dieting a major issue because it can mentally just fatigue your ability to stay structured and disciplined over time. So how about we maintain some muscle by eating protein on a daily basis and being accountable to the amount of protein that we're consuming instead of spending the rest of our lives yo-yo dieting. A lot of people view weighing and measuring and logging their food as some insurmountable task, but the reality is this. Aging as an overweight person with a muscle wasting disease is actually an insurmountable task. That's what makes life very hard for people, and it happens earlier and earlier. So if you want to prevent muscle wasting and you want to keep some strength as you get older, you're going to have to be accountable to your protein intake, and you're going to have to do regular resistance training, and there's no real way around that. Now, make no mistake, I'm not saying that you have to weigh and measure and log your food forever. In most cases, this just isn't how it goes. But you do need to do it long enough to develop some sort of an instinct on what it means to eat adequate protein while being in a caloric deficit. Now, for most people, that does mean logging for a while. But what's the alternative? Continuing to go with your instinct that is flawed to the basis of you maintaining an overweight frame while wasting muscle every time you try to diet? Let's be real here. Most people are gonna need to be accountable to the food that's going in their body so they can be in an overall caloric deficit while eating adequate protein over a long period of time. And if you do this, you're guaranteed to get in better shape. But if you continue to follow your own instinct, chances are you're gonna be left flat. If you've watched up until this point, you might have more questions than you have answered. So let's iron some stuff out. When it comes to tracking your food, there's several different ways to do that. You can do that the old-fashioned way of just writing down everything you eat throughout the day and then totaling up your calories, carbs, fat, and protein and trying to hit those targets. Or you can utilize modern technology. There are several free apps out there that allow you to just enter the food, and it's gonna have in all the macros and calories for all the foods that you eat. Now, the very easiest way to do that is to prep 4 or 5 days worth of food. And if you do this at one time, your macros are kind of set. And then all you got to do is eat your dinner with your family every night, work that into your total macros, and boom, you're golden. So meal prepping has a high success rate because you're guaranteeing that you're hitting your macros because you're prepping meals that align with your macros. So if you have a goal of 150 carbs and 150 protein and 65 fat, you cook your meals according to your goals, and this leads to a higher success rate when it comes to being accountable to your food. So your next question is probably how to calculate your macros. Now, luckily for you, I've already done a video on calculating your macros, and all you gotta do, go to my page, click the video link, scroll down, and you'll see a video on how to calculate your macros, and that's gonna get you started. But that's probably all we need to go over at this time. I don't need to go into extreme detail, but what I do need to get across is that being accountable for your food and tracking what you eat, and at minimum, if you're gonna track one thing, make sure you track your protein. That's gonna have the most bang for the buck to prevent sarcopenia, and actually you might build some muscle in the process of losing fat, which would be fantastic. So you don't have to get crazy about it in the beginning, but you can. Or you can just track your protein and start from there. So let's summarize real quick. If you want to be successful long-term with your fat loss goals, you have to be accountable to the calories that are going in your body. And the best way to do that is to log the food that you're eating using an app. Most of the time nowadays, you don't have to worry if the app's gonna have enough protein or too many carbs. They're all pretty streamlined at this point. So all you gotta do is get an app and start following the macros that it has set out for you. The easiest way to make this happen long-term is also to meal prep. Learn how to cook a week's worth of food. That way you always have food on you and available and you're never left hungry. Plan your life around teaching everybody around you how to eat a little healthier. And the best way to do that is to always eat dinner with the family. Cook for them as if you're cooking for you. Work your dinner into your macro plan. And then all day, you're gonna have meals with you every day. And dinner is going to align with your macros as well. This is the best way to do it. It's not actually that hard, and it is one of the only ways you can guarantee to see results really fast and consistently as long as you stick with it.